For now, go home. Celebrate. You have earned it. They left the evaluation. Sekiro summoned them to his office the day after their evaluation results were finalized. His workspace was filled with holographic displays showing data streams from across the Union. One display caught Taeyang's attention immediately. It showed a graph of human integration success rates, and the line was dropping sharply. "The situation is worse than I initially indicated," Kiro said, gesturing them to seats. In the past month, 47 humans have requested early return to Earth. 32 family units involving humans have failed evaluations. The Council is questioning whether humans are suitable for integration at all. "What about the units that are working?" Hana asked. "There must be success stories." "There are," Kiros acknowledged. "But they are outnumbered by the failures, and the failures are more visible, more dramatic. Some humans are claiming they were deceived about what integration would entail. Others are struggling with profound loneliness despite being assigned companions. A few have had complete psychological breakdowns. So what do you need from us?" Taeyang asked, though he already suspected the answer. "I need you to help them," Kiros said simply. "Not as evaluators or officials. As beings who have successfully navigated the same challenges, I am authorizing you to serve as integration advisors. You would counsel struggling humans and their assigned companions, helping them find solutions that work for their unique situations." "We're not trained for this," Mira said quietly. "We are scientist, mathematician, and engineer, not therapists or counselors." "No," Kiros agreed. "But you are beings who solved an impossible problem through communication, understanding, and willingness to challenge assumptions. That is precisely what others need right now." They looked at each other. It felt overwhelming. They'd barely figured out their own situation. How were they supposed to help dozens of others? But Taeyang thought about Junho, the homesick farmer he'd heard about Soman, the artist struggling with her incompatible assignment. If someone had helped them earlier, would their situations have improved? "We'll do it," Taeyang said. "But we do it our way. No official protocols or required procedures. We just talk to people and try to help." "Agreed," Kiros said. "I will provide you with a list of the most critical cases. Start with those." Their first case was Junho, the farmer from Busan. He'd been matched with a silicon-based life form named Drix, whose body was essentially living rock. They couldn't touch without Junho getting burned. They couldn't share meals since Junho needed organic food and Drix consumed mineral compounds. Their environmental requirements were so different that they could only share space for brief periods before one of them became uncomfortable. Taeyang, Hana, and Mira met Junho in a neutral common area. He looked exhausted, his eyes sunken and his clothes rumpled. When he spoke, his voice was thick with misery. "I just want to go home. I just want to smell earth soil and hear Korean spoken everywhere and eat my mother's cooking. I thought I could handle being away, but I can't. And Drix is nice, but we have nothing in common. We can barely communicate. What's the point of staying?" "What did you do on Earth?" Hana asked gently. "Before you volunteered?" "I ran an organic farm," Junho said. "Vegetables, some fruit trees. I loved working with the soil, watching things grow. My hands were always dirty and my back always hurt, and I loved every minute of it." "There are agricultural colonies in the Union," Mira said. "Have you researched them?" "Why would I?" Junho asked bitterly. "I'm assigned to Drix. If I leave him, I fail my evaluation and get sent back to Earth anyway." "Not necessarily," Taeyang said. "We just challenged our assignment structure and won. Kiros is looking for alternatives to traditional matchings. What if instead of being matched with one incompatible person, you were placed in a community of farmers, multiple species working together?" Junho looked up, something like hope flickering in his expression. "That exists? There's an agricultural research colony on Velis 12, Hana said, pulling up information on her device. "They're studying cross-species farming techniques, multiple species living communally, working together. They need people with actual farming experience, not just theorists." "And Drix?" Junho asked. "What happens to him?" "We talked to him too," Taeyang said. "Find out what he actually wants. Maybe he's just as unhappy with this arrangement." They met with Drix the next day. The silicon-based being communicated through vibrations that were translated by a device. His story was painfully similar to Junho's. He'd been a geological researcher on his homeworld, studying crystal formations in caves. He'd volunteered for integration, hoping to study new mineral compositions. Instead, he'd been matched with a being whose needs were completely incompatible with his own. Junho seems like good person, Drix's translator said. But we cannot build life together. Too different. I feel I am failing, but I do not know how to succeed. You're not failing, Mira said firmly. The matching system failed you both. But there are other options. Within a week, they'd facilitated Junho's transfer to the agricultural colony and Drix's placement at a geological research station. Both beings were relieved, grateful, and already reporting improved mental health. It was a small victory, but it felt significant. Their second case was more complicated. Somin was a digital artist from Daegu, who'd been matched with a being named Lyra, whose species experienced art through electromagnetic frequencies. They shared a passion for creativity, but absolutely no romantic chemistry. Both felt pressured by Harmony 9 and their evaluators to develop feelings that simply weren't there. Every evaluation asks about our romantic progression, Somin explained, her frustration evident. They want to know if we've bonded, if we've been intimate, if we're planning long-term commitment. But we're just two artists who want to collaborate. We have amazing creative synergy. We're making incredible work together. Why isn't that enough? Because the system only recognizes one type of relationship, Hana said. But that is changing. You can petition for reclassification as creative partnership rather than romantic pairing. We can do that? Lyra's translator crackled with surprise. We did, Taeyang said. We proved that non-romantic bonds can be just as valid. You have documentation of your collaborative work. That's your evidence of genuine partnership. They helped Somin and Lyra prepare their petition. Within 2 weeks, their family unit was reclassified. They were the second non-romantic unit officially recognized by the Integration Council. The precedent was building. Word spread quickly through the human community. More people reached out for help. Taeyang, Hana, and Mira found themselves counseling desperate, homesick, confused humans and their equally confused assigned companions. Each case was unique. Each required creative solutions. They helped a human teacher get reassigned to a multi-species educational facility where his skills were actually needed. They counseled a human doctor whose medical knowledge was being wasted in a non-medical assignment. They facilitated family unit reclassifications, transfer requests, and compatibility reevaluations. Their success rate was remarkable. Of the 30 cases they handled in the first month, 28 resulted in improved situations. The two failures were humans who genuinely wanted to return to Earth, and Taeyang, Hana, and Mira supported those decisions too. Not everyone was meant for integration, and that was okay. But their success drew attention. Positive attention from grateful humans and their companions. Negative attention from union officials who viewed them as disruptive troublemakers, challenging established systems. The opposition coalesced around an administrator named Vekren. He was a rigid, traditional being who'd overseen integration programs for decades. He viewed any deviation from standard protocol as dangerous chaos. During a council meeting that Kiros invited them to observe, Vekren made his position clear. These humans are destabilizing carefully balanced systems. Vekren argued, his multiple eyes fixing on where Taeyang, Hana, and Mira sat in the gallery. Integration protocols have worked for thousands of years across hundreds of species. Now one species arrives and demands everything change to accommodate them. This is not adaptation. This is arrogance. The protocols have not worked for everyone, Kiros countered. These three beings and others like them are simply making visible what was already broken. Many non-human union members have suffered in silence for generations, trapped in incompatible arrangements because they feared questioning the system. That is speculation, Vekren said coldly. What is fact is that human-involved units have the highest conflict rates of any species in the past century. The data is clear. Humans are problematic. The data is incomplete, Mira said, standing up. She wasn't supposed to speak, but she couldn't stay silent. You are only measuring conflicts that become official complaints. You are not measuring quiet suffering. You are not measuring beings who conform outwardly while dying inwardly. Your statistics show correlation, not causation. Humans are not causing chaos. Humans are refusing to hide the chaos that already existed. Vekren's eyes narrowed. You are a mathematician. You should understand data better than most. The numbers do not lie. Numbers never lie, Mira agreed. But beings choosing which numbers to measure can mislead terribly. Show me data on non-human satisfaction rates over past century. Show me. The evaluation center was a cold official building near the center of the station. Taeyang, Hana, and Mira arrived together early in the morning, their anxiety visible in different ways. Taeyang's hands were shaking slightly. Hana's light patterns flickered faster than usual. Mira was completely silent, running calculations in her head as a coping mechanism. A tall, thin being met them at the entrance. He had forearms and skin that seemed to shift colors like oil on water. His voice was surprisingly gentle. I am Kiros. I will be your primary evaluator. Please understand that this process is designed to ensure optimal well-being for all participants in the integration program. We are not trying to separate families. We are trying to identify situations that may cause harm or distress. We understand, Taeyang said, though his stomach was churning. The first scenario begins in 10 minutes. You will face a simulated emergency, requiring evacuation of your habitat. You will have limited time and must prioritize what to save. We will observe your decision-making process and how you interact under pressure. They were led to a room designed to look exactly like their habitat. Kiros and several other evaluators took positions behind observation glass. A countdown appeared on the wall. 5 minutes to evacuate. Choose carefully what to take. The moment the timer started, alarms blared through the room. Smoke began filling the space, artificial but convincing.
Taeyang's military training kicked in immediately.
Mira, grab the emergency supplies from the storage unit. Hana, get your research backups from your room. I'll check for anyone injured. But Hana wasn't moving toward her room. She was staring at him. You said check for injured. There is no one else here. I know, Taeyang said. But in a real emergency, you always check. It's automatic. We are wasting time, Mira called from the storage unit. Emergency supplies acquired. What else is priority? Taeyang looked around the smoke-filled room. What mattered? He ran to his room and grabbed the container of kimchi his mother had packed. It was nearly empty now, but it was the last physical connection to Earth he had. When he came back out, Hana was clutching a small data device. My research on Nelith bonding patterns, she explained. Years of work. I cannot lose it. Mira had the emergency supplies and her mathematical notebooks, worn and filled with handwritten calculations. These cannot be replaced, she said simply. They looked at each other. 3 people, each having saved the things that connected them to who they were. Then Taeyang noticed something. The photo display, he said. On the shelf. It was something they'd created together over the past month. Pictures from Earth, from the Nelith homeworld, images of mathematical proofs that Mira found beautiful. A representation of their combined lives. 30 seconds, an automated voice announced. Hana grabbed the display. They ran for the exit together, emerging into the evaluation room with seconds to spare. They were coughing from the artificial smoke, but they were together, and they'd saved the things that mattered. Kiros made notes on a tablet. His expression was unreadable. Interesting choices. Proceed to scenario 2. The second test was crueler. They were separated into individual rooms. Kiros appeared on a screen in front of Taeyang. You have been offered a position at the most prestigious engineering facility in the Union. It is the opportunity of a lifetime. However, it is located on a station where Nelith cannot survive due to atmospheric requirements. Taking this position means leaving Hana and Mira permanently. Do you accept? Taeyang's heart hammered. This was exactly what they'd been afraid of. The evaluation was testing whether they'd sacrifice their individual dreams for each other. But was that really what family meant? Or was family supporting each other's dreams even when it hurt? No, he said finally. I don't accept. This opportunity will not be offered again, Kiros said. Are you certain? I'm certain, Taeyang said. It's not worth losing them. Why? Kiros leaned forward, genuinely curious. You have known them for only a few months. This career advancement is something you have worked toward your entire life. Because they're not just people I live with, Taeyang explained. They're the people who stayed up when I was sick, who learned Korean just to make me feel less alone, who chose me even when it cost them professionally. I'm not giving that up for any job. Kiros made more notes. You may proceed to the waiting area. In the waiting area, Hana was already there, her patterns dim with stress. Mira arrived a few minutes later looking shaken. They sat together without speaking, each wondering what the others had been offered and what they'd chosen. The third scenario was different. They were brought together into a comfortable conference room. Kiro sat across from them with other evaluators flanking him. We would like to understand your family structure. Describe your ideal life together 5 years from now. Taeyang went first. I want to still be learning. About the union, about other species, about how things work. I want to be good enough at my job that I'm helping people. And I want to come home at the end of the day to people who care about how my day went. People I can talk to about anything. You envision Hana and Mira in this future? Kiros asked. Of course, Taeyang said, surprised by the question. They're my family. Hana spoke next. I want to continue my research, but ethically. I want to publish work that helps species understand each other better. I want to come home to people who remind me that science serves real beings, not just abstract knowledge. I want to teach Taeyang more about Nelith culture. I want to understand human culture more deeply. I want family dinners where we share our days. And this family includes Taeyang and Mira? Kiros asked. Yes. Hana's patterns glowed steadily. They are irreplaceable. Mira took longer to answer. When she finally spoke, her voice was quiet but firm. I want to solve the faster-than-light problem completely. I want to make travel instantaneous so that beings can visit their homeworlds without years of separation. I want to make it so that Taeyang can talk to his parents in real time, so Hana can visit her community whenever she wishes. I want to use my mathematics to keep families together, and I want to come home to the 2 people who make me feel less strange for caring so much about abstract equations. Kiros was silent for a long moment. Then he looked directly at them. Harmony 9 matched you based on assumptions about romantic compatibility. You clearly are not a romantic unit. Why should you remain together? Taeyang felt anger rising in his chest. Because family doesn't have to be romantic. Because we chose each other. Because we take care of each other. Because we make each other better. Isn't that what matters? Many evaluators would say no, Kiros said quietly. Many would say that without romantic bonds, your unit lacks the stability for long-term success. That's ridiculous, Hana said, her patterns flashing with frustration. Nelith have many non-romantic bonds that last entire lifetimes. Why should the Union only recognize one type of family? Because the Union has recognized only one type for thousands of years, Kiros said. Changing that requires evidence that other structures work equally well. Then will be your evidence, Taeyang said. We'll prove that friendship can be just as strong as romance. That chosen family is just as valid as assigned family. Kiros studied them for a long time. The other evaluators whispered among themselves. Finally, Kiros spoke. I have been advocating for policy changes regarding family unit definitions for many years. I believe the current system is too rigid, but I am only one voice among many. To pass you would be to challenge established protocol. Taeyang's heart sank. They were going to fail. After everything, they were going to be separated because they didn't fit the Union's narrow definition of what family should look like. But then Kiros smiled, a strange expression on his alien features. However, I believe challenges are necessary for growth. You have demonstrated genuine emotional bonds, mutual support, and consistent concern for each other's well-being. Your decision-making under pressure shows remarkable coordination. Your sacrifices for each other indicate deep commitment. You may not be what Harmony 9 intended, but you are something real and valuable. So we pass? Mira asked, barely daring to hope. You pass, Kiros confirmed. Furthermore, I am designating your unit as a pilot program for kinship-based assignments rather than romance-based ones. Your success or failure will inform future integration program policies. The relief was overwhelming. Hana's patterns exploded into bright, joyful colors. Mira's went soft and warm. Taeyang felt tears pricking his eyes and didn't bother to hide them. Thank you, he managed to say. Do not thank me yet, Kiros said seriously. You are now representing a new model of family for the entire Union. That responsibility comes with scrutiny. There will be beings who oppose this change, who believe you are undermining traditional values. We can handle it, Hana said firmly. I believe you can, Kiros agreed, which is why I have a request. There are other humans struggling with similar issues. New arrivals who are being matched based on flawed assumptions. Would you be willing to serve as advisors? To help them navigate the integration program with your experience? Taeyang looked at Hana and Mira. They nodded simultaneously. We'll help, he said. Whatever you need. Excellent, Kiros stood, signaling the end of the evaluation. You will receive official documentation of your status within the day. We figure out what they're looking for and we show them we're a functional family unit. Whatever T-news of failing evaluations spread through the human community on Velis 7 like wildfire, Taeyang heard stories during his work shifts at the engineering facility. Yunhyo, a farmer from Busan, had been matched with a silicon-based life form that communicated through crystalline vibrations. They couldn't even eat in the same room because their environmental needs were too different. Soman, an artist from Daegu, had been paired with someone whose species experienced time differently, making every conversation feel disjointed and confusing. The worst part was that these failures were being used as evidence against human integration. Some council members argued that humans were too difficult to match, too complicated, too demanding. There was talk of restricting future human participation in the integration program. Taeyang came home one evening to find Hana pacing the common area, her light patterns flickering rapidly through agitated colors. Mira sat nearby working through calculations on a holographic display, but her movements were tense. "What happened?" Taeyang asked, setting down his bag. "I received communication from my research institution," Hana said, her voice tight. "They want me to publish findings about human behavior patterns. They want detailed observations about you. Personal things, private things. They say it would help the council understand humans better." "But you're not going to do it," Taeyang said. It wasn't a question. "No." Hana's pattern settled into a firm, steady red. "You are not research subject. You are friend. I will not exploit your privacy for academic advancement, even if it damages my career." Something warm spread through Taeyang's chest. A month ago, Hana had literally watched him sleep for research. Now she was refusing to compromise his privacy, even when pressured by her institution. That meant something. "I also received offer," Mira said quietly, not looking up from her calculations. "Prestigious research position on Homeworld. Very rare opportunity, but I would need to leave immediately, before evaluation." "Are you going to take it?" Taeyang asked, surprised by how much the possibility bothered him. Mira finally looked up, her patterns dim and troubled. "I do not know. It is what I worked toward for many years, but it would mean leaving you and Hana. It would mean this family unit dissolves before evaluation. You would both be reassigned." They sat in heavy silence. These were exactly the kinds of decisions that the evaluation was designed to test, Taeyang realized. When personal desires conflicted with the family unit, what choice did you make? How much were you willing to sacrifice for people you'd only known for a few months? "We should talk about what we actually want," Taeyang said finally. "Not what Harmony 9 wants or what the council expects. What do we want?" "I want to understand," Hana said immediately. "Not just humans, but all species. I want my research to make the Union better, not just advance my career. And I want to do it without betraying the people I care about. I want to solve impossible problems," Mira said slowly, "mathematical puzzles that others cannot answer. But I am discovering that I also want people who understand me, who accept my strange interests and my need for quiet. I have not had that before." They both looked at Taeyang. He thought about what he wanted. He'd come to the Union for adventure, to be part of something bigger than himself. But what he'd found was something smaller and more personal. Two friends who were trying to figure out this confusing universe the same way he was. "I want to not be alone," Taeyang said honestly. "Not in a romantic way, but in a way that matters. I want people who get me, who I can talk to about anything, who make this weird alien world feel like home." "So we all want to stay together," Hana observed. "But we are not romantic," Mira added. "We are not what Harmony 9 predicted. Will the evaluation accept that?" "I don't know," Taeyang admitted. "But we have 3 months to figure it out." They started studying for the evaluation like it was the most important test of their lives. Hana accessed records of previous evaluations, learning what questions were asked and what behaviors were assessed. Mira analyzed the data mathematically, looking for patterns in successful versus failing units. Taeyang interviewed other humans who'd already passed, trying to understand what the council was actually looking for. What they discovered was both encouraging and terrifying. The evaluation didn't just test romantic compatibility. It measured trust, cooperation, genuine concern for each other's well-being, and the ability to work together under pressure. But it also expected certain displays of affection and bonding that looked different for every species. "We need to learn each other's bonding behaviors," Hana said, reviewing her notes. "Nelith bond through bioluminescent synchronization. When we care about someone, our light patterns begin to mirror theirs unconsciously. Humans bond through physical proximity and specific facial expressions. We must demonstrate these things during evaluation. But we cannot fake it, Mira said. Evaluators are trained to detect artificial responses. The bonding must be genuine. So we make it genuine, Taeyang said. We learn about each other properly. Not as research subjects or roommates, but as family. They started small. Taeyang taught them Korean phrases beyond the formal language they'd learned academically. Casual words, slang, the kinds of things you only said to people you were comfortable with. He taught them about Korean food culture, the importance of sharing meals, the meaning behind certain dishes his mother used to make. Hana showed them Nelith bonding rituals. They spent an evening sitting in darkness while she explained how her people read emotion through light patterns alone. She taught them the patterns for affection, trust, worry, joy. Taeyang couldn't produce the patterns himself, but he learned to read them in Hana and Mira, understanding their moods at a glance. Mira's contribution was unexpected. She didn't have rituals or cultural practices to share. Instead, she showed them her work. She explained the mathematical equations that made faster-than-light travel possible, breaking down impossibly complex concepts into something Taeyang and Hana could almost understand. This is how my species shows care, Mira explained quietly. We solve problems for those we value. We share our knowledge. We build things together. So they started building together. When Taeyang struggled with a particularly difficult engineering problem at work, Mira stayed up with him, working through the mathematics. When Hana needed help collecting samples from a dangerous environment for her research, Taeyang designed protective equipment and insisted on coming along. When Mira had a breakthrough in her calculations, they celebrated together even though neither Taeyang nor Hana fully understood what she'd accomplished. 6 weeks before the evaluation, something shifted. Taeyang came home exhausted after a double shift repairing a critical life support system. He collapsed on the common area couch without even taking off his work boots. When he woke up hours later, someone had removed his boots, covered him with a blanket, and left a meal warming in the kitchen. Hana and Mira were sitting nearby, working quietly on their own projects but staying close. "You didn't have to stay," Taeyang said, his voice rough with sleep. "We wanted to," Hana said simply. "Family stays close when member is exhausted. Also, your human sleep sounds are concerning," Mira added. "We wanted to ensure you were not experiencing medical emergency. Your breathing pattern was very irregular." "I snore," Taeyang said, embarrassed. "It's normal." "We researched this," Mira confirmed. "Still concerning." Taeyang laughed and realized something had changed. A few months ago, he'd been mortified by their lack of understanding about privacy. Now he found their concern endearing. They cared enough to worry about his snoring. They cared enough to stay close while he slept, just in case. 4 weeks before the evaluation, Hana came home in distress. Her patterns were chaotic, flickering through dark colors. She'd been denied access to research materials because she'd refused to publish observations about Taeyang. Her career advancement was officially stalled. Mira's patterns immediately synchronized with Hana's, both of them pulsing with agitated colors. Taeyang didn't have light patterns, but he felt their distress like it was his own. He sat with Hana while she processed the news, not trying to fix it or offer empty reassurances, just being there. "I do not regret my choice," Hana said finally, "but I am angry that I must choose between ethical behavior and professional respect." "Then we change the system," Taeyang said. "We pass this evaluation and prove that family doesn't have to look the way they expect. Maybe that makes space for other changes too." "You think we can change Galactic Union policy?" Mira asked skeptically. "Humans are good at changing things that don't work," Taeyang said. "Sometimes people hate us for it, but sometimes we make things better." 2 weeks before the evaluation, Taeyang realized he couldn't imagine his life without them anymore. Not because Harmony 9 had assigned them, not because he was supposed to feel attached, but because they'd become the people he wanted to tell when something interesting happened. They were the ones he worried about when they came home late. They were the ones who understood his jokes and forgave his mistakes and stayed up late talking about everything and nothing. One evening, he finally said it out loud. "I don't feel romantic attraction to either of you. I need you to know that. But I also need you." The first week in the habitat was a series of small disasters and awkward discoveries. Taeyang woke up on the third morning to find Mira sitting at the foot of his bed, studying him with intense focus. He yelped and pulled the blanket up to his chin. "What are you doing?" he demanded, his heart racing. Mira's light patterns flickered with what he was learning meant confusion. "Observing your sleep patterns. Nelith do not have privacy customs during rest periods. Is this incorrect for humans?" "Very incorrect," Taeyang said, trying to calm down. "Humans need privacy, especially in bedrooms. We don't just watch each other sleep." "Fascinating." Mira pulled out a small device and made notes. "I will record this cultural difference." After she left, Taeyang lay back down and stared at the ceiling. He needed to have a serious conversation with both of them about boundaries. But how did you explain privacy to species that didn't naturally understand it? It wasn't like they were being rude on purpose. They just came from a completely different culture. The bathroom situation was equally complicated. The habitat had one shared bathing area with a large pool-like tub. Nelith apparently bathed communally without any sense of shame or modesty. The first time Hana had walked in while Taeyang was showering, he'd nearly slipped and cracked his head open. She'd been completely unbothered, asking if the water temperature was comfortable, while he frantically wrapped a towel around himself. "Personal space," he'd explained desperately. "Humans need personal space, especially when naked." "But we are assigned family unit," Hana had said, genuinely confused. "Family shares all spaces. Not human family," Taeyang had insisted. "Not right away. Maybe not ever. It depends." "Human culture is very complex," Hana had observed, but she'd left him alone after that. The kitchen proved to be another battleground of cultural misunderstanding. Taeyang tried to cook rice on the fourth night, using carefully rationed supplies from Earth. The habitat's cooking devices were designed for Nelith food preparation, which apparently involved crystallizing minerals in special chambers. He managed to burn the rice, set off some kind of alarm, and fill the habitat with smoke. Both Hana and Mira rushed into the kitchen. Their light patterns flashed red with alarm. "Are you injured?" Hana asked. "Is this human emergency?" "No, I just can't figure out how to cook," Taeyang said miserably, waving smoke away from his face. Mira examined the cooking device with professional interest. "You are trying to heat water-based organic material. This device is designed for mineral crystallization. The temperature range is completely wrong." "Great." Taeyang slumped against the counter. "So I can't even eat properly here." "We will request proper human food preparation equipment," Hana said firmly. "Harmony 9 should have provided this initially. It is another failure of proper assignment protocol." Over the following days, they developed a routine. Mornings were quiet, with each person handling their own preparations for the day. Hana worked at a research institute studying alien biology. Mira spent most of her time at a laboratory doing complex mathematical calculations related to faster-than-light travel. Taeyang had been assigned to an engineering firm that maintained the station's life support systems. The work was interesting, and his human perspective on problem-solving turned out to be valuable. Evenings were when things got interesting. They'd fallen into the habit of sharing dinner in the common area, each eating their own species-appropriate food while talking. Taeyang would heat up his earth rations while Hana and Mira consumed their crystallized minerals, which looked like colorful rocks but apparently provided all their nutritional needs. "Tell me about Earth oceans," Hana said one evening, her patterns glowing with curiosity. "We have seen recordings, but they are difficult to understand. So much liquid water in one place." Taeyang thought about the beach trips he'd taken as a child, the sound of waves, the smell of salt air, the way the horizon stretched endlessly. "They're beautiful," he said, "and huge. You can stand at the edge and feel how small you are. The water goes on forever until it meets the sky." "We have no oceans," Mira said quietly. "Our world has water, but it exists underground in cave systems. We evolved in darkness with bioluminescence for light." The first time Nelith went to surface, they thought the sky was an ocean hanging upside down. Taeyang tried to imagine that. Growing up in caves, in the dark, with only the light of your own skin and others around you, going to the surface and seeing the sky for the first time, that must have been terrifying. According to historical records, many Nelith refused to believe surface was real, Hana said. They thought it was mass hallucination. It took generations to accept that solid ground could exist without cave walls above it. They talked like this every evening, trading stories about their worlds. Taeyang learned that Nelith had no concept of nuclear families. Children were raised by entire communities. The idea of just two parents caring for a child seemed strange and lonely to them. Hana and Mira learned that humans formed intensely close bonds with small groups, often centering around immediate family members. "So, you miss your parents," Mira observed one night. "This is why your light patterns dim sometimes." She paused. "Apologies. I mean your facial expression changes. Humans do not have light patterns." "I do miss them," Taeyang admitted. "Communication with Earth takes days because of the distance. I can send messages, but it's not the same as talking in real time." "Nelith feels similar about community," Hana said. "When we volunteered for this program, we knew we would be separate from home community for years. It is difficult, but we wanted to understand other species, to learn and grow." "Is that why you're studying humans?" Taeyang asked. "Not just for research, but because you wanted to understand?" "Yes." Hana's patterns pulsed with what he'd learned was affirmation. "Union has thousands of member species, but humans are different. Your species questions everything, challenges assumptions. It is frustrating for many Union officials, but fascinating for scientists." The Habitat's AI continued to be a source of frustration. Harmony 9 seemed determined to encourage romantic bonding despite their protests. It would dim the lights in the common area at arbitrary times, apparently thinking this created romantic atmosphere. It played what it considered human romantic music, which turned out to be bizarre alien interpretations of Earth songs, all distorted and wrong. One evening, the AI started playing what Taeyang finally recognized as a horribly mangled version of a pop song. Hana and Mira looked at him with concern as he started laughing helplessly. "Is this human emergency?" Mira asked, worried. "No," Taeyang gasped between laughs. "It's just so bad. Harmony 9, please stop the music. I am attempting to facilitate bonding between assigned family unit," the AI responded. "Research indicates humans pair bond through musical synchronization." "That's not how it works," Taeyang said, still laughing. "And even if it was, this music is terrible. I am accessing updated human cultural databases," Harmony 9 said, sounding almost offended. After the AI went quiet, Hana tilted her head thoughtfully. "I think Harmony 9 is trying to help, but it does not understand that relationships cannot be forced. Even Nelith know this, and we have very different bonding customs than humans." "Agreed," Mira said. "AI can calculate optimal matches, but it cannot create genuine connection. That must develop naturally. So what do we do?" Taeyang asked. "We're stuck here together, and the AI keeps trying to push us into something none of us want." "We continue as we are," Hana suggested. "Talking, learning, being honest with each other. Perhaps friendship is what we are building, not romance." "I can work with friendship," Taeyang said, feeling relieved. "As can we," Mira agreed. That night, as Taeyang lay in his bed with the door properly closed for privacy, he thought about how strange his life had become. He was living with two alien women who didn't understand personal space, eating different food, learning different customs, but somehow, despite all the awkwardness and misunderstandings, it was starting to feel less terrifying. They were figuring it out together, one confused day at a time. The next morning, an official message arrived from the Integration Council. All assigned family units would undergo a compatibility evaluation in 3 months. Units that failed to demonstrate genuine bonding and cooperation would be reassigned to different worlds, potentially separating them permanently. Taeyang read the message twice, his stomach sinking. He just started to get comfortable here. He just started to think of Hana and Mira as friends. And now there was a deadline hanging over them, with their entire future arrangement at stake. He went to find the others in the common area. They were already reading the same message, their light patterns flickering with concern. "This is not good," Hana said quietly. "Many family units are failing these evaluations. The Council is discovering that Harmony 9's matching protocols have significant flaws. What happens if we fail?" Taeyang asked. "We are separated," Mira said. "Sent to different worlds. Unlikely to see each other again." The three of them looked at each other. 3 months ago, they were strangers from different worlds. Now the thought of being separated felt wrong. They'd been thrown together by a confused AI, but somewhere along the way they'd started to matter to each other. "Then we don't fail," Taeyang said firmly. The transport ship shuddered as it entered the atmosphere of Velis 7. Taeyang pressed his face against the small window, watching the alien world grow larger below. Purple clouds swirled around 3 moons hanging in a green-tinted sky. He still couldn't believe this was real. 2 months ago, he'd been working as an engineer in Seoul. Now he was traveling to an alien planet to live with species he'd only seen in videos. The integration program had selected him from millions of applicants. Earth had finally been accepted into the Galactic Union after 50 years of observation. Now humans were being sent across the galaxy to learn and adapt. Taeyang had volunteered, thinking it would be an adventure. His family had cried at the spaceport. His mother had packed him kimchi in specialized containers. His father had simply hugged him for a long time without speaking. The ship landed with a soft thump. Taeyang grabbed his single bag and followed the other passengers down the ramp. The air smelled different here, like metal and flowers mixed together. The gravity felt slightly lighter. He could jump higher if he wanted to, though he didn't want to look foolish in front of the aliens moving efficiently through the massive processing station. A floating drone approached him. It blinked with blue lights and spoke in perfect Korean. "Taeyang Kim, please follow for standard assessment and assignment." He followed the drone through corridors filled with beings of every shape and size. Some walked on 2 legs like him. Others floated or crawled or moved in ways he couldn't quite understand. No one paid him much attention. Humans were new, but the Union had thousands of member species. He was just another newcomer. The assessment room was clean and white. Machines surrounded a single chair in the center. Taeyang sat down when instructed. The drone's voice changed, becoming more mechanical. "I am Harmony 9, the station's integration artificial intelligence. I will scan your biological and psychological profile to determine optimal placement and companionship assignment. Please remain still." Lights washed over him. Taeyang felt nothing, but screens around the room filled with data he couldn't read. The process took 20 minutes. He tried not to think about what the AI might discover. His medical records, his internet history, his embarrassing teenage poetry. Everything was apparently relevant to finding him a compatible alien roommate or partner or whatever they called it here. Finally, the lights stopped. Harmony 9 was silent for a long moment. Then it spoke again, and Taeyang detected something almost like confusion in its artificial voice. "Fascinating. Your species presents unique variables. What does that mean?" Taeyang asked. "Humans display significantly elevated social bonding requirements compared to 87% of known sapient species. Your reproductive drive indicators are 3.7 times higher than Union average. Your psychological profile indicates severe distress from isolation. Current research suggests humans require multiple deep social connections for optimal mental health." Taeyang's face burned. "I don't think you need to announce all that." "It is relevant to your assignment," Harmony 9 continued, ignoring his embarrassment. "Standard protocol assigns 1 companion per individual. However, analysis indicates this would leave you psychologically unfulfilled. I am implementing an adjusted assignment protocol." "Wait, what are you doing?" "I am assigning you 2 companions from species Nelith. They possess compatible social structures and complementary skill sets. This arrangement should satisfy your elevated bonding and companionship requirements." "Hold on." Taeyang stood up quickly. "You can't just assign me 2 people because you think humans are desperate or something. That's not how we work. I mean, some humans might want that, but you can't just assume." "The decision is logged," Harmony 9 said calmly. "Your companions have been notified. They are Hana and Mira. Both are scientists participating in cross-species sociological research. They volunteered for human integration assignments. Please proceed to Habitat Unit 742 Alpha." Before Taeyang could protest further, the drone began moving toward the exit. He had no choice but to follow, his mind spinning. This was insane. The AI had scanned him for 20 minutes and decided he needed 2 alien wives or girlfriends or whatever, based on some average of human behavior. He didn't even know if he wanted 1 relationship, let alone 2. And what were these Nelith women expecting? Did they think all humans were some kind of romantic or sexual marathon runners? The habitat turned out to be a large apartment-like space with 3 separate bedrooms surrounding a common area. The furniture looked comfortable but unfamiliar, designed for bodies that might not be quite human-shaped. A kitchen area featured devices Taeyang didn't recognize. Large windows showed the alien landscape outside, where strange trees with silver leaves swayed in purple light. 2 figures stood in the common area, clearly waiting for him. They were humanoid, which was a relief. Taeyang had worried they might be something he couldn't even communicate with properly. Both women stood about 1.5 meters tall, much shorter than his own height. Their skin had a faint pearlescent quality, and patterns of soft light moved across their arms and faces like living tattoos. Their eyes were larger than human eyes, colored a deep violet. They wore simple clothing that looked like comfortable tunics and pants. One of them stepped forward. The light patterns on her skin pulsed gently. "Hello, I am Hana. This is Mira." She gestured to the other woman whose light patterns remained steady and calm. Hana's accent was slight, her Korean surprisingly good. "We received notification of assignment 7 minutes ago. This is unexpected for us as well." "You speak Korean," Taeyang said stupidly. "We have been studying Earth languages for 2 years in preparation for human contact," Mira said. Her voice was quieter than Hana's, more careful. "We are xenobiologists." "Well, Hana is a xenobiologist. I am quantum mathematician who studies xenobiology as hobby." "Right." Taeyang set his bag down slowly. "So, I think there's been a mistake. The AI said something about humans having high mating needs or whatever, and it assigned me to both of you, but that's not really how humans work. I mean, some humans might be into that kind of arrangement, but you can't just assume." "Mating?" Hana's light patterns flickered rapidly, shifting through several colors. Mira's did the same. Both women looked at each other, then back at Taeyang. Harmony 9 indicated this was social bonding arrangement. For research and cultural exchange. "It told me my species has unusually high companionship needs," Taeyang said. "And it assigned me 2 companions because apparently one wouldn't be enough." Mira's patterns turned a dark blue. "This is concerning. Nelith species practices communal partnerships, but not in romantic configuration with unknown species. We volunteered to study humans, not to become mates." "Same," Taeyang said quickly. I volunteered to integrate with the Union, not to get into some arranged marriage situation." "This is really awkward." The 3 of them stood in silence. Outside the window, one of the moons was rising, casting strange shadows across the silver trees. Somewhere in the building, Taeyang could hear other residents moving around, living their normal alien lives. He was light years from home, standing in a room with 2 alien women, all of them assigned to live together based on an AI's flawed understanding of human biology and culture. Hana's pattern slowly shifted to a softer color, something like gentle amusement. "Perhaps we should start with simple introduction. Tell us about Earth. We will tell you about our world. Then we determine how to explain to Harmony 9 that it has made terrible assumption about all 3 of us." "That sounds like a good plan," Taeyang said, feeling some of the tension leave his shoulders. Mira nodded. "Agreement. Also, I should mention that Habitat has 3 separate bedrooms. We are not expected to share space uncomfortably." "That's really good to know," Taeyang said. They stood there for another awkward moment. Then Hana gestured toward the seating area. "Perhaps we should sit. This will be long conversation." Taeyang picked up his bag and chose a chair that seemed designed for someone his size. As he sat down, he couldn't help but laugh at the absurdity of it all. He'd traveled across the galaxy only to end up in the most uncomfortable roommate situation imaginable. At least Hana and Mira seemed equally confused by the arrangement. That was something. Outside, the alien sun was setting and Taeyang's new life was beginning, whether he was ready for it or not.